2026 Financial Town Meeting. Please rise if you can and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance, flag, United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all. Thank you. I will declare that we have a quorum, 15 being required. I think we met that litmus test. Now I'd like to ask the clerk to read the warrant.
Good evening. Pursuant to Chapter 3, Title 45, you are hereby required to post at least 7 days before the 5th day of May, 2026. Written notification in 3 or more public places in the town of Foster, Rhode Island, notifying and warning the electors of the town of Foster, qualified to vote upon the proposition to impose a tax or the expenditure of money, to assemble in the town for a meeting at the Captain Isaac Payne School Auditorium in the town of Foster on the 5th day of May at 7:00 p.m. for the purpose of ordering a tax to be levied and assessed on the rateable property in the town, the inhabitants thereof, for the payment of the town's debt and interest, for the payment of the town's proportion of the state tax, for the support and maintenance of the poor, for the buildings, repairing and amending of highways, for the building, repairing and amending of bridges, for the improvements in any manner deemed fit for any property belonging to the town, for all necessary charges and expenditures whatsoever arising within the town, whether incidental or not of the above, and for the support of the town share of the Foster Gloucester Regional School District, for authorizing expenditures for the Capital Reserve Fund, for the anticipation notes and bonds, and for any and all purpose authorized by law, and to transact such other businesses which may be legal before this meeting, given under my hand on the 20th day of April, AD 2026, at the town of Foster.
Thank you, Sue. Not to embarrass anyone, but in the last few years I've been asking, if this is your first financial town meeting in Foster, would you just stick your hand up quickly? A few. Welcome. Welcome to Democracy in Action. So I'd like to thank everyone that's contributed to this meeting, the board and committee members who made up budgets, the town council members, department heads, and the town hall staff. I'd also like to thank the Board of Canvassers. Most of all, they do a lot of work that nobody knows about to get to a meeting like this. And also the custodial staff at the Payne School for setting things up for us. Very much appreciated. Just a couple of comments. Well, I'll start by recognizing Mr. Plouffe, Town Council President, to give any comments that he would like on the budget.
Thank you. Welcome. I just want to say thank you also to all the department heads for your leadership, discipline. This highlight of this budget is the stability of our financial management. I want to take a moment to recognize and thank our finance director, Kelly Ross, for discipline, foresight, and professionalism that goes into building this budget each year. Sound financial planning doesn't happen by accident. It requires constant attention, conservative assumptions, and a commitment to doing things the right way. Because of Kelly's work, the town of Foster is living within our means, maintaining appropriate reserves and planning responsibly for both today and the future. Over the past 2 years, as most of you know through the news, there have been towns, cities that are having financial difficulties. Some even requiring a waiver from the state to go above the 4% tax levy. We don't have that problem here in Foster, and we will not. We have avoided those challenges by staying proactive instead of reactive. Our budgets are built on realistic revenue projections, controlled spending, and a clear understanding of long-term obligations. This budget this year is balanced, thoughtful, and forward-looking. It reflects fiscal responsibility while still making strategic investments in our future. Most importantly, it reflects the values of this community, the accountability, progress, and pride where we live. Pride of where we live. Thank you to everyone who played a role in shaping this budget, and thank you to our residents for your continued engagement and support. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'd now like to recognize any representative from the school committee that would like to comment on the school budget. Mr. Petracca. I think you're on the bubble.
I wasn't expecting this. My first time in 13 years, they've asked me to come up, which is fine.
Blame Shelley.
But anyhow, our school department budget is $5,086,850, and we're asking the town for a 4% increase of $281,450. The budget's going up 5%, and the big thing about the budget is that what's driving the budget this year is we have a large number of students out of district placements, and we're going to have a large number for out of district transportation. Since I've been here 13 years, it's never happened. But this year we had 6 students placed out of district. Next year we're going to have we're going to have like 3, but it still eats into the budget. We only have 2 classes in each grade level. Our enrollment is kind of stable right now. I think it's going to go up because the number of children being born in Foster, if you look at the last 5 years, are going up. So I think in the future we'll have a greater need for more classrooms, but right now we're at 2 at every grade level. So we're asking for 4% from the town, and I think it's going to bode well for us going forward. And that's about all I have to say unless anybody has any questions.
Thank you very much. Okay, order of the meeting. I'm going to read my usual conduct of the meeting rules. We'll then go to some comments on the budget. We got a little logistical problem to solve tonight, and then we'll go into the main part of the budget. So I want everybody to make sure that you understand what you're voting on. That's a continuing problem. People get, if we do a machine ballot, people get to the machines and they're asking the canvassers, you know, what are we voting on? And I do my best to explain things, but if you don't know, come up here. I don't bite. I'll explain it as many times as I need to you know, to get you comfortable with casting your ballot. And that goes for any vote, not just a machine ballot. If you don't understand, stick your hand up and ask me to explain it again, and I'll try and find some other words to make it clear for you. Stay for the final votes. After we get through the budget, there's 8 or 10 resolutions that I read that we need your vote on, and that's where you really spend your money. So I encourage you all to stay for the end. I'll be as quick with them as I can when we get to them. I guess Kelly Russ, our treasurer, I'd like to recognize you. We're going to move the consideration of the education budget, which is last in your budget printout if you have it. It's on page 15, I believe. We're going to move that to the beginning of the meeting, and I'm going to ask Kelly to kind of explain the situation.
Hello, everybody. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Kelly Russ. I'm the finance director here. So we have a few things added to this budget this year, and a few items that are different than any other year. So one of the things that occurred this year, for anybody who attended the Foster Gloucester Regional School meeting, you would notice that they had 2 meetings this year. The first one was, is that me? The first meeting was tabled or continued until the second meeting. So for the first time since I've been here, and this is my 18th financial town meeting, the region did not adopt its budget prior to us adopting our budget. Normally, our budget includes the approved adopted budget at the Foster Gloucester Regional Town meeting. This year, it does not. The council adopted the budget prior to the region adoption of the budget. And once we advertised and sent a notice to the Auditor General for their approval and for notice in the paper, we could not adjust it. Therefore, our current Foster Gloucester regional budget has an appropriation that's different from what was voted on at the financial town meeting. So that's going to come up tonight. You can either accept what's already in the budget, or you can make a motion and accept a motion to change it to what occurred at the Foster Gloucester Regional School. We would like to move that forward
first and put education first for that reason, so that we can get the regional and the local school appropriations settled, as it's a large portion of our budget in its entirety. In regards to the rest of the budget, I think for anybody who hasn't had a chance to read the whole document, I made sure it was on the website last week, so everybody would have a week to review the description and the changes that were made. But just to touch on a few of the overall assumptions in the budget, our healthcare rose 15% this year. So that's assumed all throughout the budget. So anytime you see a large number of personnel in a budget, their budget went up quite a bit because anything associated with healthcare also had an increase. We budgeted throughout the normal retirements. So there are some large budgetary expenses, but from a revenue standpoint, let's discuss that. With this budget includes a 2.9% increase in the levy, 2.98, 2.9% in the levy. Our revenue was also offset by an additional revenue source, which was for, we have a dispensary. I call it something else normally. We have a dispensary, and the dispensary, we get 3% of their gross non-medical sales as a revenue source for Foster. So we've budgeted $50,000 in our general fund to offset taxes. So we didn't increase taxation for portion of our increase in the operating expenses. I picked $50,000 because as of the date I adopted the budget, we adopted the budget and I presented it for council approval. We'd only received, I think, $9. So this last quarter, we did receive $16,900. So I think our $50,000 is pretty on target for the year. Next year, once we have a full year's analysis, we can budget appropriately next year. But this budget does include that extra revenue source. Just so you know, I think the budget is projected. That's on the last page of the narrative itself. Our current rate was advertised as $21.52, and that is our current rate for the year that we're collecting taxes. Next year's rate is expected to go to $22.16. What that increase means to you is a couple of things, how you can evaluate it. That's at the projected budget currently, so any changes you make to that, plus or minus an amount, will impact that. About every $25,000 added or taken away from this budget will impact you about 4 to 5% on the dollar for your tax rate. And another thing that occurred this year that will impact everybody with a homestead, which is a good number of households in Foster, is we reduced the homestead exemption from 23% to 22%, just 1%. But 1%, if you have a $400,000 home, that's 400,000. So it's 1% of your 400,000, and that's what you would be additionally taxed for. The reason being, we had a certain amount that we wanted that benefit to cost every resident and to impact the residents and your commercial property. And that amount we're trying to hold true to. So as we receive more applications each year, we're decreasing the overall exemption by that 1%. I believe our goal was to cap it at the decrease of the exemption to about 20%. But right now, next year, it's projected and actually adopted at the last council meeting to be 22%, a reduction.
So Barry says. No, that's not the problem.
For a second.
Kelly, you all set?
So I'm all set with that. That's the impact. I also wanted to explain some of the other benefits that we have, and as they phase out, it will impact our tax rate. Currently, the tax freeze, even though it was grandfathered out in 2016, costs $1.2 million. So once Once that is fully grandfathered out, we can address the credits that we give. Currently, the credits cost the town about $69,000. So once the freeze is fully grandfathered out, we can address that in the future. But currently, we have 254 people on that account, and it costs about $1.2 million. We do talk about this periodically just to discuss possible changes in the future credits. As far as expenditures are concerned, we can talk about them by department as we go. If anybody has any questions, I can answer any changes in any major department, any department at all, actually. And the resolutions that Bob was discussing at the end of the year, a lot of them impact capital and capital improvements. There is a chart in here about our capital plan. It's stable and we're keeping it stable. This budget, for the first time since I've been here, we were able to get the capital transfer to be 4% of budgeted operations. If you've noticed, anyone who's been a regular voter at Foster, you will notice that we've asked for charter changes that have requested that our charter amend the percentage of our capital plan to be a 4% mandatory contribution. Foster has very few households, but a lot of land mass. So a lot of our expenditures are related to capital. So if we could keep that funded properly, it will help you all long-term and the stability of your community. And the reason that that is an ongoing charter change request, seeing that now it's actually going to cost you $0 going forward. The reason I would like to explain quickly is that if it's in your budget now, if another council were to be elected or it was so chosen that you would like to reduce your tax levy request in any given year, you could actually balance your budget with the other 2% that you're currently putting in capital. It would look like a 0% increase, but you will have removed capital expenditures and put it towards operations. It's somewhat misguided and it's somewhat less than transparent. So by changing that charter to mandate the 4%, you're honoring what you've already accomplished and it would stabilize you long term. The other charter recommendation that I'm making to the council is I'm bringing it up tonight because it's a derivative of one of our problems today. It's a result. So if we were to move our financial town meeting to June, which many of the communities who have this type of voting or this type of government have their meetings in June, May is the first Tuesday of May is our normally scheduled meeting. And it's early. A lot of times we've had detrimental, large, substantial changes in legislation that have occurred after our date that have impacted our budget. This year, for example, Foster Gloucester Regional School did not adopt its budget prior to us adopting ours. If we had a financial town meeting in the first Tuesday of every June instead, like many communities do, it would have been an easier lift. So that would be my other relative change. Other than that, we can talk about any department as we go.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay. Conduct of the meeting. To vote, you must be wearing a wristband issued by the Board of Canvassers. Voting will be by voice, standing vote, or machine ballot at the moderator's discretion. Motions to compel a machine ballot on a specific motion are in order during the discussion period on that motion. A voter who leaves the room during the meeting must surrender their voter affirmation slip to the canvassers and retrieve it upon their return. The budget will be considered on a department-by-department basis as presented in the handout you received when entering the meeting. During the budget portion of the meeting, motions to amend a department budget by a specific amount, either an increase or a decrease, will be in order as an amendment to the main motion. Except for those filed with the clerk 7 days before this meeting, a motion to add a line item to the budget will not be in order, and there were no such requests. Voters may address questions to the moderator from the microphone on the floor. Please identify yourself before doing so. No voter may pose a second question or comment until those wishing to speak have been heard. Comments should not be repetitive of something already stated by another voter. Motions to move a question will be in order only if the moderator determines that there has been sufficient discussion opportunity on that motion. For a motion to prevail, a majority, more than half of the voters present must cast their vote in the affirmative. There are 3 exceptions. One, a motion to move a question requires an affirmative vote by 2/3 of those present. A machine ballot may be compelled by an affirmative vote of 1/5 of those present. For a motion to prevail on the machine ballot, a majority of the votes cast in the machine must be in the affirmative. Voters' questions and comments must address the motion on the floor and only the motion on the floor. Political rhetoric, innuendo, and personal attacks will not be allowed. Are there any questions? Okay. That said, we will start our consideration of the budget on page 16, I believe it is, the Education Department. The Payne School has submitted a budget in the amount of $304,671. I would entertain a motion for that amount. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the Payne School budget? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay, the motion passes. There is a current budget submitted for the regional school district funding of $5,629,751. A motion for that amount would be in order. Is there a second? Is there discussion on the motion?
Can you hear me? All right, good. I move to reduce the region's budgeted appropriation by $46,444 to reflect the will of the voters at the region's financial town meeting. The intent is that these funds will be set aside in the general government budget to be used if needed for any related expenses associated with this reduction. I will make a similar motion when that department is discussed.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Okay, well, this is a motion to amend the original budget amount. Is there any discussion on this amendment? Lynn? That's not turned on. We're set up by a tall person.
Yeah, totally. Could you clarify what the will of the people was, to come up with this $46,000?
Kelly, would you address that, please?
So there was a motion made at the Foster Gloucester Regional School meeting to reduce their operating expenditures by about $800,000, I'm estimating. And they further stated that they would like to reduce the appropriations that the towns contributed by $154,000 and change. That motion was accepted and adopted at that meeting. Each of the towns are now have to vote separately regarding that. Gloucester has adopted the budget with their share of the reduction based on their percentages. And she is making a motion that Foster do the same for the opposite side. Gloucester has not adopted their budget, mind you. They've adopted it, but they have an all-day referendum in June. But our meeting is first.
So basically, it's a mechanical exercise so that our budget that we vote on for the region tonight agrees with what the region voted on. Any further discussion on the amendment? Yes, sir.
Brendan Mara, Mill Road. If I could just clarify, you're looking to shift it into contingency, not to take it out of the budget altogether. Is that what you were kind of suggesting there?
That'll be the net result if the next motion
Okay,
passes.
so it stays in the overall budget, just in
It
case
isn't going to
something
change
goes
the bottom line of
sideways.
our budget tonight.
I think that's the responsible choice in the seats that you guys are in at the moment, whether I agree with it or not. But
Right.
I think it's,
You have
Thank
to
you.
accept
If I
both
could-
departments have to be accepted. And the goal was not to take it out of the tax levy, because if something happens and you need to pay it, you won't have the funding to do it.
Is there any other discussion on this motion? Okay, there being none, those in favor, and this is an amendment to the main motion to reduce the 5.6 million by 46,444. Those in favor of that amendment, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The amendment carries. Now, the main motion, which I believe would now be for $5,583,307 is on the table. Is there any discussion on that amount as a main motion? Okay, there being none, those in favor of that amount, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The motion carries. Okay. Now, you can turn your attention back to page 1 of the budget presentation, section 2. And we are voting on the general government section. There is a motion, I would entertain a motion for $755,975 for the general government. I have a motion. Do I have a second? A motion and a second. Catherine, I'd like to recognize you to make a motion
Sure. Thank
for an
you.
amendment.
Okay, I move to increase the general government's bottom line budget by $46,444 with the intent that these funds will be added to the contingency account and reserved for any related expenses associated with the reduction of the region's appropriation.
Is there any discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Is there a second on this motion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the main motion. Is there discussion on the amendment? There being none, those in favor indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. The amendment carries. That brings us down to the main motion being $802,419 for the general government budget. Is there a motion for that amount? Is there a second? Is there discussion on that amount, on the main motion? Yes, sir.
Bob Horton, East Killenly Road. Looking over some of the costs on this, I noticed an increase in salaries. The council's asking for a 25% increase in the stipend, and it looks like employees are getting a 6% increase. Okay, well, just to make a quick statement, I'm glad you're working on trying to keep the town fiscally sound. That money's coming out of our pockets, though. And the more you take out of our pockets, the less fiscally sound we feel. In the situation with high inflation, I don't think it's appropriate to ask for such increases. Where I work, if you do an exceptional job, right now you're getting about 3%. So that's what I'm going to propose. I'm going to make a motion that we decrease the total amount, and this reflects taking the salaries down, the increases down to 3%. Please reduce this bottom line by $8,200.
Bob?
Okay, there is a motion on the floor to amend. Is there a second? I hear a second. Is there discussion?
I'd just like to point out that it's a bottom line budget. You can say what your intent is. If you want to reduce the salaries,
You can decide what you're going to do with that. That's
okay.
Okay, is there further discussion on the amendment? There being none, those in favor of the $82,000 reduction, please indicate by saying aye. 8,200, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to ask for the vote again. Those in favor of reducing by $8,200, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Nays have it. The motion is defeated. We are now considering $802,419. The further discussion on the main motion for that amount.
Mary Jo Creation, 2 Tri Hollow. I understand the intent to move the money that originally was going to the schools for the general operation or operations. But I would ask that that money be not spent until we know that the school can get through the year without needing the majority of it, because their original projection did indicate that they needed it. So while it is a nice windfall, if we get to keep it, I would keep that in mind, that there may be expenses that it should cover. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? There being none, those in favor of the motion for $802,419, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Finance Department. Budget proposed in the amount of $474,154. A motion for that amount would be in order. Is there a second? Is there discussion on the motion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Social Services in the amount of $63,250. Is there a motion for that amount? Is there a second? Is there discussion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Planning Department. Budget submitted and proposed in the amount of $227,685. A motion for that amount, please. Is there a second? We got a team over there. Thank you. Is there discussion on the motion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Libraries in the amount of $195,158. Motion for that amount, please. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the library budget? Please come forward.
What are we voting on?
We're voting on the amount of money that the town of Foster will contribute to the library.
But there's no budget listed? Is there a broken out budget?
No, there's not.
Do we know why?
Is there anyone representing the library here?
Foster Library is actually like an outside agency for the town. They're not covered by our audit. They're not part of our financial statements except a one-line appropriation, just like the fire companies are. And just like some of the other services that we provide, like the other people that we fund, like Cranston Cap or whatever. It's the same type of thing. They are a department, and that we do record this gift or this contribution at the state level, but they are a separate department. They are not a department of the town of Foster. In regards to, we don't manage their funds. Their operations are not through us. None of that. So that's why we don't display their entire budget.
But this could be just an arbitrary number that they came up with without a broken out.
Those things are vetted at the workshops, and they did provide a more detailed budget to the town council
But
during those workshops.
But not to the taxpayer. So this is just a number that we're voting on total.
Just so you know, those budget sessions are, anyone can come. You could come and view them and you'll see each line, what we're looking at.
Okay.
So that's why it's important to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any further discussion?
Yes, in accordance with the regulations, may I ask the former speaker identify himself? I didn't hear his name. Thank you.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Mike Croswick, 48A Walker Road.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, there being none, those in favor of the motion for $195,158, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay, I'm going to ask for a standing vote. Canvases, do we have a count? Thank you. Okay, so when we vote by standing, we're voting with our wrist. We count wristbands, we don't count people. So if you're in favor of this motion, please just stand up and make your wristband visible. The canvases will be by shortly. Doesn't sound anything like the sound.
I don't think there's any question.
I believe you can be seated. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we have 66 votes in the affirmative, so the motion passes. And I apologize for making you stand up for a vote. This doesn't look anything like what I heard, so that's fine. But we're good. Okay. Next ballot is on Public Works in the amount of $1,923,525. A motion for that amount, please. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the Public Works Department budget? Ms. Ryder? Would you take a minute and lower the microphone if you can?
Oh,
Whoops. Just,
I miss a podium up here. Okay, well, it doesn't want to come down. Okay.
There.
Well, I'm
Thank
not
you.
that short. This budget, it's going up 187,000, almost, we'll say $188,000. Last year, the budget was increased by 100,000. So it's almost 300,000 in 2 years. One thing that stuck out to me is on the second page, page 9, toward the bottom where you see the 50,000 in green. I'm assuming, since it says FTM changes, that was the $50,000 that the taxpayers decreased last year from the original increase requested of 150,000, correct? Why is it showing up as part of this budget?
Because it's a bottom line budget, so in order to reflect the 1,735,000, it shows us the FTM change from last year. You have to.
Right, but I'm going across.
And the 50,000 is the increase because in order for it to stay the same, you would have to have a decrease of the 50,000. So the 187 is the difference between the 1,735 that was adopted at the financial town meeting, not presented, adopted, versus what is being presented this year, the 1,092,000, the difference is the 187. You need that change to show that,
To show that.
to show the increase. To
Okay.
properly show the increase.
All right. To properly show so the 157 includes that 50?
The 187
187
includes the
includes
$50,000
the
reduction
50
from last year.
So even because the taxpayers took it out last year, it didn't go away.
It is away. It's in the 1,735. What was presented last year was 1,785. The
Okay,
adopted was 1,735.
okay,
And that's where it came. It didn't hit any one line item. It was a bottom line change. So it's a reduction. So if he had budgeted or the town council had adopted a budget with each of these line items, they never went back in and made a change as to where the DPW director was going to save that money.
okay.
Versus in the other public safety, they did go in and make a change. If the council doesn't vote to make a change, I don't determine where that money was reduced. It's a bottom line budget, so it's in the bottom line. So the presented budget last year was 1785. The
Right.
adopted financial town meeting budget was 1735. The budget presented to you this year is 1923. The increase is 187.
Correct. But I went through and I added up all the increases.
Mhm.
And without that 50,000, it's
Mhm.
not 187.
Correct. Because that's an increase in that line item. If it's a negative 50 one year and it's 0 the next year, it's an increase of 50.
So it
From
didn't go away.
Year to year, it's not in any specific line item. It was never,
Okay, I'm still not, it just, if you, it's like the taxpayers
It's
took it
gone.
away.
It's
It's
gone.
gone.
it's gone.
It's gone.
It's-
Okay,
It's a mathematical equation. So if you reduce it from it was 1785, now it's 1735. So that was a reduction of the 50,000. I could have taken that and randomly selected each different account number that it would have impacted, but that's not my role. It would be the DPW director's role to make sure that he stays within that 1735 this year. Because we didn't assign it to any role, it just went in the line FTM change. This year, there is no FTM change right now, it's 0. So if you had a negative 50 in that line last year and a 0 this year, that is an actual increase in the operating budget from last year to this year of $50,000.
well, I'm asking because I know that at one of the council meetings, demolition of the old police station,
That has nothing to do with this.
where Mr. Rogers said that he put $50,000 in this year's budget to demolish that
Lynn,
building.
did you miss a meeting?
I did, because this was
In one of the
this was a
workshops.
council meeting. No, this was a council meeting.
In one of the workshops, he had originally proposed a budget that included $50,000 in buildings and grounds, an increase of $50,000. In one of the budget meetings and workshops, we moved that to a capital item simply because to tax the taxpayers and build in a maintenance of effort of a constant $50,000 would be less than transparent, less than responsible, in my opinion. I recommended that they move it to capital because the purpose was for either improvements or to fix that building or to demolish that building, some sort of decision that had to be made later on. So that's actually in capital because once the police department moves from that building, currently we share a well, we share the internet, we share a lot of different things, and their wiring and their internet problems are going to impact us. So
Okay,
we want to move them.
let's,
So it's
Okay.
it's in the capital budget. It's
Okay,
not
so-
that 50,000.
Okay, so that 50,000 can also be to improve the building
Correct.
or mothball it or anything,
Something has to be done to that building.
but it is not only for demolition.
No,
Okay, thank you.
that's a council decision at a later date.
is there any further discussion on the DPW budget? There being none, those in favor of the 1,923,525, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Parks and Recreation, in the amount of $71,047. A motion for that amount would be in order. A second. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion on the Parks and Recreation budget? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Police and Dispatch, in the amount of $2,052,610. A motion for that amount, please. A second. Is there discussion on the police budget? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. The Animal Control budget, the amount of $56,000. Motion for that amount, please. Is there a second? Is there discussion on the motion? There being none, those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Other Public Safety in the amount of $879,593. A motion for that amount, please. A second. Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the Other Public Safety budget? There being none, those in favor of that amount, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Long-term debt and obligations in the amount of $268,875. A motion for that amount, please. And a second. Motion and a second. Is there discussion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Okay. Transfers to capital projects in the amount of 911,000 even. Is there a motion for that amount? Is there a second? Motion and a second. Is there discussion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Miscellaneous transfers in the amount of $30,000. Is there a motion for that amount? Is there a second? Motion and a second. Is there discussion on the motion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. And the capital transfer. Kelly, is this amount still?
So the capital transfer, the required 2% based on this budget is the 347. The additional is 352. That amount stands. It's 700,000.
Okay, so capital transfer in the amount of $700,000. Is there a motion for that amount? Is there a second? Is there discussion on the motion? There being none, those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And that concludes our consideration of the town budget. I didn't miss anything, did I? No. Okay. That said, my apologies in advance for having to drone on for a little bit. Let me just refocus here. Yeah. Sorry? Yeah, that's a good idea. Okay. Resolved, it is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to reserve and commit unexpended funds appropriated for property valuations in the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 for the sole purpose of funding property valuations in future years. Is there a motion in support of the motion, the resolution? Is there a second? Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Contingency reserve resolution, resolved. It is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to reserve and commit unexpended available funds appropriated for contingencies for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 for the sole purpose of funding contingencies in future years. It is further voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to utilize this reserve as needed with town council approval. Is there a motion in support of this resolution? Is there a second? Is there discussion? There being none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Capital project and fund transfer resolution, resolved. It is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to transfer to the general fund $911,000 from the capital projects fund or fund balance committed for capital for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027 for the purchase and improvements set forth in the capital program. Is there a motion in support of this resolution? Is there a second? Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Okay. Fund balance committed for capital transfer resolution, resolved. It is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to transfer to the capital projects fund from the general fund account committed for capital projects in excess of 10% in an amount determined appropriate by the finance director to increase capital projects fund balance for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. A motion for that resolution would be in order. Thank you. Second head is a discussion on the motion. There being none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Obligation of capital funds approved for capital budget for fiscal year 2026-2027. Resolved, it is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized to obligate funds approved for the 2027 fiscal year end budget for capital expenditures immediately upon the budget adoption for projects that will begin after July 1, 2026. Motion for that resolution. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Is there discussion? There being none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Use of fund balance related to capital reserves resolution. Resolved, it is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to transfer funds from the capital projects fund or the general government account committed for capital projects in excess of 10% in an amount determined appropriate by the finance director to find an approved project that has exceeded budgeted allocations for the purpose of meeting obligations resulting from unexpected costs or provide matching funds from federal or state awards with approval of the town council. Is there a motion in support of that resolution? Is there a second? Is there discussion? There being none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Firefighter Incentive Reserve Resolution. It is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to reserve and commit unexpended available funds appropriated for the firefighter incentive program for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026 for the sole purpose of funding this program in future years. It is further voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to utilize this reserve as needed with town council approval. A motion for that resolution would be in order. Is there a second? Motion and a second. Is there discussion? Do you have to? Good, okay. There being no discussion, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Thank you. I skipped one, I'm sorry. Student Population Change Reserve Resolution. Resolved, here, it is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to reserve and commit $203,540 from the Foster Gloucester Regional School appropriation in the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2027 for future changes in appropriations to the Foster Gloucester Regional School as a direct result in changes in student population. A motion for that resolution would be in order. Is there a second? Those in favor, is there discussion? Those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. So carries. Tax anticipation notes, lines of credit resolution. Resolved, it is hereby voted that the town finance director of the town of Foster be and hereby is authorized and directed to borrow any necessary amounts of money from time to time during the current year for the proper and appropriate transaction of the town's business in anticipation of taxes to be assessed as of December 31st, 2025, and any liability created under this authority shall be paid not later than 1 year from the date of issuance. Is there a motion in support of this resolution? Is there a second? Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. Last and certainly not least, tax resolution. Pardon me for just a second. Resolved, it is hereby voted that the electors of the town of Foster qualified to vote on any proposition to impose a tax for the expenditure of money in a town meeting legally assembled on the 5th day of May, 2026, hereby order that the levy and collection of a tax on the rateable property of said town of Foster, including real estate and tangible personal property in the sum of not less than $15,425 and nor more than $15,525,000. Said taxes are for ordinary expenses and charges, for the payment of interest and indebtedness in whole or in part of said town of Foster, and for other purposes authorized by law. Tax assessor shall apportion said levy on the assessed valuations on the inhabitants and rateable property of said town of Foster as of the 31st day of December 2025 at 12 o'clock midnight, said date being known as the date of assessment of town valuations. The tax assessor shall, on completion of said apportionment, date, certify, and sign the same and deliver and deposit the same in the office of the town clerk. The town clerk, upon receipt of same, shall forthwith make a copy of the same and deliver it to the town finance director, who shall issue and affix to said copy a warrant under her hand directed to the collector of taxes of said town of Foster, commanding her to proceed and collect said taxes for the persons and estates liable thereof. Said taxes assessed and apportioned on the 31st day of December 2025 shall be due and payable on the 15th day of July 2026. All taxes remaining unpaid on the first day of August 2026 shall carry a collected penalty at the rate of 12% per year on such unpaid taxes. Said taxes may be paid in 4 quarterly installments, the first installment of 25% on or before the 15th day of July 2026, and the remaining installments as follows: 25% on or before the 15th day of October 2026, 25% on or before the 15th day of January 2027, and the last 25% on or before the 15th day of April 2027. In the event that remaining tax or any subsequent installment is not paid when due, then the whole tax or any remaining unpaid balance shall then become due and payable immediately and shall bear interest at the rate of 12% per year. Interest will be charged on all late payments in their entirety and shall not be calculated on a limited per diem basis. All taxes not paid on or before the first day of January 2027 for the levy assessed on valuations as of 31st day of December 2024 shall be collected by said tax collector according to law. In the event that payment is made by check and the check for any reason is dishonored or refused payment by the bank on which it is drawn, then the tax collector shall add a bad check charge in the amount of $30 to the taxpayer's account. The Town Council of Foster hereby authorizes the sale of tax liens in bulk to Rhode Island Housing and Mortgage Finance Corporation in accordance with the Rhode Island General Laws 44-773 sub B. Is there a motion in support of this resolution? Is there a second? Is there discussion on the resolution? There being none, those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? Those in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed, nay. Thank you very much for coming.